Chapter 21 Liya returns, the Li family's magic weapon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The first time Guan took the first bite of the Taicang fruit, he felt a heat flow into his stomach, warming his whole body. Effective. He immediately began to eat big gulps, and after a while, he had eaten all the huge Taicang fruit. While digesting it, he brought up the attribute panel and began to look forward to the increase in lifespan. However, the wait lasted only half an hour. Life expectancy has not increased at all. His energy and blood have increased a lot, and his physical strength is stronger. What's going on? Is my realm too high, or is this fruit only suitable for spiritual beasts and monster beasts? Guan was secretly confused. He looked at the white spirit rat on the table. It was still sleeping soundly. Its lifespan had not continued to increase, but its aura was steadily improving. Wait and see. The white spirit rat slept for 3 days. When it woke up, it was as big as an adult cat. It jumped into Guan's arms and rubbed against him affectionately, but his eyes were looking at the cabinet behind him. Don't eat too much, Guan, who was reading a book, hummed. If he let it grow any longer, it would definitely cause trouble, especially Xiaochuan and others would be curious, like Lu Jiojia and Yilan. They would go to the outer gate sooner or later, and Guan didn't want them to know too many of his secrets. The white spirit rat looked at Guan pitifully and nodded, which made Guan's eyes widen. Did it actually understand it? Guan pointed to the side with his right hand and said, "Come over here." The white spirit rat jumped over immediately without any hesitation. He continued to give instructions, and as long as they were not complicated, the white spirit rat could follow them, which made him like it even more. Finally looks like a spiritual beast. Guan picked up the white spirit rat and took it out of the house. It is autumn now, and all the parks are piled with dead leaves. Xiaochuan and others are cleaning, and the medicine valley is peaceful. Guan walked down the stairs, put down the white spirit rat, and said, "Don't eat randomly." After speaking, he pointed at the mouth of the white spirit rat. It nodded in understanding, then turned around and jumped away. Guan looked strange. How does it look like a rabbit? Could it be that not only the lifespan has been increased, but also the genes have been tampered with? Yilan was the first to notice the white spirit rat, mainly because she was attracted by Guan, and then she saw a big white mouse running towards her, which scared her face. "There's a rat demon," Yilan exclaimed, suddenly attracting the attention of Lu Jiojia, Xiaochuan, and Wu Xian. When they saw the white spirit rat, they were immediately frightened. They had never seen such a big rat. "White spirit rat, slow down." That when Guan's voice came, the white spirit mouse immediately stopped and looked back at him, then turned and walked towards the forest. Its speed was not as fast as before. Seeing this, Yilan and others put down their tools and ran towards Guan. "Elder brother, is that the white spirit rat you raised? Why is it so big? It should be another white spirit rat, right? It feels a bit clumsy and has bad legs and feet. The bloodline of this spiritual beast is not simple." Listening to the discussion of his junior brothers and junior sisters, Guan smiled and said nothing and let them guess. Guan looked at everyone and said, "I'm going to go to the outer gate in a while. Who wants to come with me?" As soon as this statement came out, everyone except Wu Xian wanted to go. What a great opportunity! Wu Xian's expression remained unchanged, but his heart was extremely excited. After some competition, Guan finally chose to take Yilan and Xiaochuan to the outer gate, and the time was set 7 days later. Why 7 days? Because he planned to explore the 8th scenery cave heaven first. Guan turned to look at the entrance of the valley. A figure came from the entrance of the valley. It was Liya. After not seeing each other for many years, Liya has gained a bit more vicissitudes of life and coldness. His black clothes were blown by the autumn wind, and coupled with the sword on his waist, he could not suppress the aura of a cold and arrogant swordsman. The 4 people in Xiaochuan also noticed Liya, and Liya's image made them nervous. No matter who comes to their medicine valley, his status is basically higher than theirs, not to mention that this person is not easy to mess with at first sight. Guan checked Liya's lifespan and found that he had reached the 4th level of the foundation. Establishment realm, it's really fast. He is indeed the first person I discovered who has the fate of the protagonist. Guan immediately walked over, followed closely by the others. Liye glanced at everything in the Medicine Valley. When his eyes fell on Guan, he felt a little dazed. Back then, Guan was always following others, but now he can lead other disciples. It is true that things have changed. Guan came to him, clasped his fists and said with a smile, "Brotherly, long time no see." Injured? Guan could feel that his energy and blood were disordered, his breathing was short and shallow, and he had obvious internal injuries. Liye smiled and said, "I haven't seen you for many years. Where is the master, senior brother, and Meng Lang?" Guan said helplessly, "Master's deadline is approaching and he left some time ago. After you left, senior brother also left the valley. As for Meng Lang, he went to take the outer sect examination and never came back." Hearing this, Liye was stunned. Xiao Chuan and others stood behind, whispering. They probably guessed Liye's identity. Meng Lang had mentioned it before, saying that there were royal children who worked here as handymen and called him brothers. Liye sighed, "It turns out you are the only one left." Guan asked, "Go upstairs and sit down." Liye nodded. The reason why he came here was not only to return to his old place, but also to recuperate here. Only here could he feel safe. Guan took Liye to the attic and motioned to others to continue cleaning up the fallen leaves, all the way to the valley master's attic. When Liye stepped onto the stairs, the feeling in his heart reached its peak. He couldn't help coughing, and his face turned pale. Guan, who was walking in front, had a slightly changed face. He felt a faint soul fluctuation from Liye. Good guy. This guy really has an old man with him. Guan turned around and asked with concern, "Brotherly, what's wrong with you?" Liye waved his hand and said, "It's okay, I was injured." Injured? Then stay for the time being, there are many places to stay in the Medicine Valley. Guan said immediately. Liye smiled and nodded, thinking, junior brother Gu is still so considerate, this time I have to help him. The two walked into the house, and after Guan asked Liye to sit down, he began to make tea for him. Liye looked around the house, and his eyes were quickly attracted by the tsangting fruit in the wooden cabinet. In the past 3 days, Guan put most of the tsangting fruit into the storage bag, leaving only 2 in the wooden cabinet, in order to prevent the white spirit rat from stealing. If the white spirit rat really ate it, he couldn't bear to kill it, so he simply hid the tsang vine. Fruit. This fruit. Liye narrowed his eyes, but he didn't look at it for too long, and his eyes soon fell on Guan. After not seeing each other for many years, when he saw Guan again, he was actually amazed by Guan's temperament. Although Guan used to look pretty, he didn't have the temperament that made people's eyes shine now. He looked like a great monk from the inner sect, calm and a little bit out of the world. If he hadn't felt that Guan's breath was only the 4th level of qi training, he really doubted that the person in front of him was not the Guan he knew. While boiling water, Guan came to the table and sat down to greet Liye. In order to keep the atmosphere warm, Guan asked about the life of outer disciples, and Liye answered one by one. To become an outer disciple, must you complete an outer bounty mission every year? Guan asked curiously. Liye smiled and said, yes, and it was an outing mission. Have you ever encountered demons? Almost every time I go out, I encounter them. The Taicang dynasty is so big that there are always places where demons are rampant. I almost died outside last year. It was a 3rd-level demon beast, comparable to the Jindan realm. I fought with several friends, but one of them died and the rest escaped with serious injuries. Liye replied. When he talked about the latter part, his face showed palpitations. 3rd level. Jindan realm. Guan's expression of pretending to be shocked dispelled the depression in Liye's heart. He began to laugh about the specific experience at that time. Guan responded emotionally as if he was listening to a story. In fact, he was indeed curious about Liye's experience. After listening, he had only one feeling: it was too dangerous. Luckily, he did not become an outer disciple. In addition to demons, you have to be careful of other cultivators. During the treasure hunt, I had a conflict with disciples of other sections. We entangled with each other for half a month. I finally killed him, but guess what happened? Liye was in a good mood and began to talk about other experiences. Guan guessed, is his father here? Liye looked at him in surprise and shook his head. Not his father, but almost. His master is here. Good guy. Guan was even more fortunate that he did not enter the outer sect. If the outer sect was like this, wouldn't the inner sect disciples be even more dangerous? Ruye continued to tell the story of his battle of wits and ruthlessness with his enemy's master, which made Guan feel like he was listening to a storyteller, very exciting. When the hot water boiled, Guan got up to make tea. Ruye asked casually, "Junior brother Gu, is the fruit in the cabinet left by the master?" Guan turned his back to him and replied, "I found it outside." "Have you forgotten that the white spirit mouse is a treasure-hunting mouse?" Ruye raised his eyebrows when he heard it. Can it really hunt for treasure? He suddenly wanted to raise a white spirit mouse too. He hesitated for a moment and said, "Junior brother Gu, can you give me a healing fruit? I won't treat you badly. Do you want a secret book or a magic weapon?" Guan turned around and came to him with tea and put it down. He said in a nonchalant tone, "I'll just give you one. You don't have to give me anything. What's the relationship between you and me?" Ruye was very moved when he heard this. Although he had friends in the outer sect over the years, they were all for profit. No one had ever treated him so well without asking for anything in return. After Guan finished speaking, he walked to the wooden cabinet, took out its songting fruit, and placed it next to Ruye's teacup. His actions made Ruye even more ashamed. Ruye, you looked down on him in Medicine Valley before. Although you joined the outer sect, you still have to rely on him to save you in the end. Ruye laughed at himself in his heart, and then he raised his hand and took out a sword from the storage bag. The scabbard was green, inlaid with gems, with delicate patterns, and looked rich and gorgeous. The hilt seemed to be coiled with a dark golden dragon. Ruye placed the sword on the table, making a heavy and crisp sound. Ruye stroked the sword and said softly, "This is what my mother gave me. I'll give it to you. This sword may save your life in the future." Guan was amazed by the sword. Although he only saw the scabbard, he could feel the power contained in the sword. After all, he was a Yin-Yang realm cultivator, and he saw more than Ruye. This is definitely a magic weapon. Damn, I forgot to set the timer. The weather is so hot and cold. Chapter 22 2000 Years of Evolution, Taicang Jingshen Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No, how can I take the sword your mother left for you? Guan waved his hand quickly. He was telling the truth. A sword with such a history might have many origins and would cause trouble. Ruye lowered his eyes and looked at the scabbard. His thoughts were already in the memory. This sword is called Tiansu. It has been with me since I was 3 years old. Now I can't exert its full power, and I am not qualified to use it anymore. It's better to leave it to you. Maybe it can wait for a destined person in this Medicine Valley. Guan asked in confusion, "Why are you not qualified? This sword is not related to the royal family, right? Then I dare not take it." He had a headache when he thought that he would be entangled with the Li family. It is true that this sword is very beautiful and he likes it, but he doesn't want his life to be disturbed. Ruye looked at him and said with a smile, "You won't understand even if I tell you. Don't worry, this sword will not bring you any trouble. The Li family dare not snatch this sword, because it is a token of love given by my father to my mother. With it, the Li family will not dare to do anything to you. If you encounter troubles that cannot be solved in the future, you can also take this sword to Changluo to find my father. How can I, a lowly person, meet the emperor? Don't worry, my father can feel it as soon as Tiansu appears in Changluo. In short, you must accept it, otherwise I won't eat this fruit." "Then don't eat it." Guan almost blurted it out, but he held back. He looked at the Tiansu sword again. Speaking of it, he still doesn't have a magic weapon of his own. The legacy left by Jindan is all talisman paper, no magic weapon, not even a sword. What are you afraid of? I am a cultivator in the Nascent Soul Realm. If I really encounter irresistible troubles, the worst thing I can do is throw the sword to the other party. Guan took a deep breath and raised his hand to grab Tiansu. The sword was quite heavy. His right hand trembled as he lifted it, which made Ruye laugh. "Junior brother Gu, even if you have mediocre talent, don't forget to practice on weekdays. You must practice the 7 swords of the Li family that I passed on to you. Liya said earnestly. Guan held the Tianqiu sword in both hands and nodded with a forced smile. He, young man, you still need to practice your eyesight. In this way, Liya stayed in the Medicine Valley. Guan personally arranged a courtyard for him, where no one would disturb him. Liya sat on the bed, with a half-bitten songting fruit next to him. He changed his hands and kept practicing to heal his wounds. The light blue shadow emerged from Liya's body and hovered in the house. This was an old man with kind eyes and a Taoist robe fluttering slightly, showing the style of a Taoist master. Liya opened his eyes and said, "Ancestor, what kind of fruit is this? The medicinal effect is so strong." The old man in the spirit body called the ancestor waved his hand first, and the space in the room fluctuated. He then stroked his beard and smiled. It should be the Tsongting fruit bred by the sacred tree of Qianqiu Pavilion, the Tsongting tree. The lowest grade of Tsongting fruit is also the 6th grade. You are lucky. Fruit from Qianqiu Pavilion. Qianqiu Pavilion has penetrated deeply enough. No wonder Taicang regards it as a great enemy. Liya muttered to himself. The ancestor looked at the Tsongting fruit and said, Qianqiu Pavilion and Taicang Sect have been resentful for thousands of years. The two sects have planted many pawns in each other's sections. Your junior brother Gu is lucky. If he hadn't met you, the Tsongting fruit would have brought him disaster. Liya shook his head and said, it's not that he is lucky, but that he is kind and loyal. People like him will always be rewarded. On the contrary, I am the one who is lucky. The ancestor nodded and said, that makes sense. There are indeed not many such people in the world of immortal cultivation, but you don't have to feel too guilty. Tiansu gave him, and for him, it means much more than Tsongting fruit. Hearing him mention Tiansu, Liya sighed, I have failed my mother's expectations, but I really don't want to fight for the throne. I just want to avenge her, and then travel around the world and stay away from the temple struggles. Tiansu is one of the 3 great emperor swords of Taicang. If you want to fully use its power, you have to practice the Huangji swordsmanship. Your Jingju and 9 swords are only a small success. It will take another 100 years for you to practice the Huangji swordsmanship. The old man pondered. Liya was silent. The ancestor joked, you can't even defeat that little guy named Yang easily. You have to work harder. You know, your 4th brother has reached the Jindan realm. Liya took a deep breath, stopped talking, and closed his eyes to continue healing. The ancestor looked out the window. Although the window was closed, he could hear the laughter of Xiaochuan and others. This is a good place, far away from worldly struggles. Unfortunately, people with missions are destined not to be suitable for this place. Forget it, I can't sigh anymore. I have to sleep and rest. In the middle of the night, Xian Valley was silent. Guan used the dragon power divine Yuan Gong to restrain his breath and left Xian Valley quietly. He came to the forest more than 20 miles away. He sat under the tree, called up the attribute panel, and locked his eyes on the 7 swords of the Li family. How many years of life should I invest? After thinking about it, he decided to invest a little more to increase the actual combat effectiveness. Then 2,000 years. This time, I will live for 100,000 years with peace of mind. He immediately chose to invest 2,000 years of life. As soon as this thought came out, the first digit of his life changed from 4 to 2. You invest 2,000 years of life in the evolution of the 7 swords of the Li family. You practiced the 7 swords of the Li family for 10 years, and your swordsmanship has reached perfection. You began to think about more possibilities. You practiced the 7 swords of the Li family for 50 years, and your swordsmanship has reached its peak. Your 7 swords of the Li family has been promoted to the 7 swords technique. You have been practicing the 7 swords of the Li family for 300 years, and your 7 swords technique has reached its peak, and your 7 swords technique has been promoted to the Jingju and 9 swords. You have been practicing the 7 swords of the Li family for 500 years, and you have perfected the 9 Jingjing swords. You have condensed your own sword intent. You have practiced the 7 swords of the Li family for 1,000 years, and your 9 shocking swords have returned to their original state, and your 9 shocking swords have been promoted to the supreme swordsmanship. you have practiced the 7 swords of the Li family for 1,200 years. Your sword intention condenses your own imperial energy of heaven and earth, and your swordsmanship understanding improves, that, you have practiced the 7 swords of the Li family for 1,800 years, and your Huangji sword technique has returned to its original state. Your sword intention inspired the way of swordsmanship, and you have understood the true meaning of the way of swordsmanship. You have entered an epiphany, and your Huangji sword technique has been promoted to the Taicang Jingshen sword. You have been practicing the 7 swords of the Li family for 2,000 years, your Taicang Jingshen sword has reached the level of mastery, and your swordsmanship understanding has improved. A series of prompts popped up crazily. When he saw that the evolution time had reached 1,000 years, Guan immediately activated the lifespan enchantment. He was afraid of disturbing the mysterious existence underground and the soul in Liya's body. When all the prompts fell, a huge memory poured into his mind, and spiritual energy surged from the ground. However, these spiritual energy did not penetrate into his body, but surrounded him. A trace of cold light gradually condensed in the spiritual energy, as if the sword light shone with a strange brilliance under the dark night. Guan fell into a state of enlightenment. I don't know how much time passed before he gradually woke up. At this time, it was still dark. Guan first looked at the consumption prompt of the lifespan barrier. Good guy, just by meditating on the technique, he actually consumed 300 years of life. Fortunately, he has completely mastered the Taicang Jingshen sword, and his understanding of the sword has reached an advanced level. This mysterious feeling makes him feel wonderful. Looking at the attribute panel again, he saw that the 7 swords of the Li family in the secret skills column had turned into the Taicang shocking divine sword, with the words comprehension marked in brackets. He did not stand up immediately, but took out Tiansu and placed the scabbard on his leg. He pressed his hands on the scabbard and closed his eyes. He was feeling the sword's intent. Once the sword's intention merges with his own, he can subdue the sword. There are actually many restrictions inside this sword, and there are quite a few of them. They are like magic levels, waiting for the sword owner to break through them with his divine consciousness and spiritual power. Guan didn't understand the restriction, but fortunately he already had his own sword intention, and his sword intention passed through the restriction. Half an hour later, Guan stood up, threw Tiansu into the storage bag, and then walked toward Xuangu. As soon as he stepped out, he was directly suspended in the air. Sword energy condensed under his feet and he stepped on the sword. When he was 10 miles away from Xian Valley, he landed and continued walking, his aura suppressed to the extreme. The night gradually passed, and the sky in the east gradually turned pink. Morning comes. Liya opened the door and faced the rising sun. He stretched and felt refreshed. The medicinal effect of tsangting fruit is really too strong. He is no longer feeling so uncomfortable and feels like he will be cured in a few days. Liya smiled and looked at the grass next to the garden in the distance, where Guan was practicing with his junior brothers and sisters. That set of moves made Liya curious. Although the movement was very slow, it made him feel that there was something mysterious about it. Liya immediately walked over and came to Guan's side. Guan greeted him and he nodded in response. What are you practicing? Liya asked curiously. Guan replied with a smile, I learned this from an old man when I was a child. It can strengthen the body and maintain a good mental outlook. I will take them to practice every day so that they can start a new day with a good spirit. Lu Jiujia complained, actually, I feel like it's useless. Xiaochuan glared at him and said, that's because you have stupid qualifications. Liya said, it is actually useful, but it has to be maintained for a long time. As a foreign disciple, he naturally convinced everyone by saying these words. Guan glanced at Liya and felt that Liya had become softer and could actually say such words of high emotional intelligence. In fact, the reason why he took his junior brothers and junior sisters to practice was mainly to completely separate their thoughts from cultivation and dreams, so as not to destroy his flowers and plants. When you finish practicing, shall I teach you a set of sword skills? Liya said with a smile. When Xiaochuan and others heard this, they immediately became excited and thanked him one after another for senior brother Liya. Liya looked at Guan and said, you should come too. It just so happens that you have a sword in your hand now. Practice your sword more. Guan smiled and nodded, fine, let me test whether you have mastered the 7 swords of the Li family. Liya's participation made the atmosphere even more joyful. Seeing his junior brothers and junior sisters making noise, he didn't feel annoyed, but felt happy instead. It wasn't until noon that Ruye took Guan to the forest. Show me your 7 swords of the Li family. If you get started as soon as possible, I can teach you the real swordsmanship. This set of 7 swords of the Li family is just a basic sword move. Ruye said seriously. Ruye, today I am asking for votes for junior brother Gu. As long as you vote, I will teach you the 7 swords of the Li family in my dream. Chapter 23, Soul-Shaking Bell, Yin-Yang Secret. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the forest, Guan couldn't beat Ruye, and finally performed a set of poor Li family 7 swords. He realized that it was harder to pretend to be clumsy than to pretend to be proficient. Facing Gu and stiff sword moves, Ruye criticized him for a long time, and then began to patiently teach him to practice sword. Guan could tell from his sword moves that he was already practicing the Jingjuan 9 swords, and he was a genius. At least his swordsmanship was better than Guan's. The second day came, and Ruye still dragged Guan to practice sword. Guan couldn't stand it. Brotherly, I don't have the talent for sword practice, so forget it. My life is only a few decades. Isn't it a waste to practice sword? Compared with sword practice, I want to plant flowers and water them. Guan said helplessly. He secretly urged the dragon energy in his body, stimulating his eyes to turn red. Ruye, who was holding a sword, saw this and suddenly felt a blockage in his heart. What is he doing? Repaying junior brother Guan the way he likes. Isn't this a kind of hurt? Ruye couldn't help but think of his childhood when his father forced him to learn from his brothers, but he could never learn what his brothers were good at. He sighed, walked to Guan, patted his shoulder, and said, Junior brother Gu, I was not thoughtful enough, I'm sorry. Guan forced a smile and said, It's okay, senior brother is also thinking about me, but I'm not good enough and lack talent. The more he said this, the more guilty Ruye felt. The two sat down and began to talk about the first year in the valley to dilute the tense atmosphere of sword practice. In the following days, Ruye no longer pestered Guan to practice sword, but he would still take an hour to teach Xiaochuan and others to practice sword. For Xiaochuan and others whose dreams have not yet died, it is a rare thing to be able to learn sword from outer disciples. Until 5 days later, Ruye was ready to leave. Guan took his junior brothers and sisters to send Ruye to the entrance of the valley. Xiaochuan and others were reluctant to leave. They learned too much from Ruye. Brother, this is your home forever. Come home often. Guan said reluctantly, home. Ruye's heart was in turmoil, but he smiled calmly and said, well, I will come back. After that, he turned and left. He was dressed in black, like a black flame in the forest, burning fiercely. The bleak autumn wind could not extinguish his fire. Guan felt that he was burning with a certain fighting spirit, which might be related to his injury this time. Guan did not retract his gaze until Ruye disappeared in the depths of the forest. He turned to look at his junior brothers and sisters and smiled, practice well, go to the outer gate to find senior brother Ruye as soon as possible, and win glory for our Xian Valley. Lu Jiujia immediately made a bold statement and vowed to enter the outer gate. Xiaochuan also said so, but his confidence was obviously not as good as his. Yilan was worried and didn't know what she was thinking. Wu Xian said, I won't go to the outer sect. I want to accompany my senior brother for the rest of my life. That when this was said, everyone looked at him in surprise, including Guan. This kid. Guan was a little touched. Did he misunderstand Wu Xian? These days, Wu Xian has been very honest and has not been groping around in the middle of the night. Moreover, Xian Valley has never lost anything, so it is not possible to conclude that Wu Xian has bad intentions for the time being. In this case, more chores should be assigned to Wu Xian in the future. Yilan felt regretful. Why did Wu Xian say this first? At the same time, she realized that perhaps in her heart, the senior brother was important, but not as important as cultivating immortals and pursuing longevity. Lu Jiujia couldn't help but mock Wu Xian for being too good at flattering. For a while, Xiaochuan, Yilan, and Wu Xian quarreled with him again. Guan took them back to the valley, and his heart flew underground. Ruye had already left. Next, he should prepare to solve the trouble underground. Late at night, Buying Cave Heaven, Guan came to Meng Lang, holding the scabbard of the Tianshu sword. Meng Lang, whose 7 orifices were sealed by the mud, was still lying on the grass. There are signs of movement in the surrounding grass. There are indeed people. Guan keenly noticed that the grass around Meng Lang had changed slightly. It was difficult for ordinary cultivators to detect this. The reason why he could detect it was because he had observed it specially when he left last time. He squeezed the Qianshu sword in his hand, and then walked towards the cave entrance where Meng Lang ran out. Soon, he disappeared into the darkness. This cave passage did not have so many crystals and was very dim, but it had no effect on the consciousness of the Nascent Soul Realm. The cold spiritual wind blew in the cave passage, blowing Guan's robe. His consciousness had already explored the end of the cave passage. It was a spacious cave room. Although it was not as big as the main cave room of the 8th scenery cave heaven, it was not small. There were coffins standing here. The top of the cave was inlaid with a blue-green crystal as big as a water tank. Under the dim light, these coffins were so terrifying. There was nothing else except the coffin. Guan's consciousness immediately detected a living person lying in one of the coffins. The faint breath of life could not escape the consciousness of the Yuanying realm cultivator. Guan did not feel any danger from this breath of life, but he was not careless. He walked forward for a long time before he reached the end of the cave. He stood at the entrance of the cave, carefully poked his head out, and asked cautiously, "Is there anyone?" No one answered him. As if there was no one in the cave, Guan picked up a stone on the ground and threw it in. With a bang, the stone hit a coffin. The coffin did not move, but he seemed to be frightened. His eyes widened. He subconsciously stepped back, pretending to be terrified. "Why haven't you said anything yet?" It would be awkward if he continued to act. Guan was anxious. The reason why he was going through the trouble was to confirm the attitude of that being. After all, the other party had never harmed him before, and he didn't want to kill a good person by mistake. At least he must feel comfortable with it. Guan gritted his teeth, suddenly drew his sword, rushed into the cave, and struck randomly. With a click, the Qianshu sword hit a coffin board and got stuck. He pulled hard, and his body staggered back due to inertia. Step. Pft. A chuckle sounded, which was very harsh in the cave room. Guan almost got goosebumps. It turned out to be a woman's voice. At first glance, it sounded like a female ghost laughing. He held the Qianshu sword in his hand and glanced around nervously, turning his body in circles for fear that some monsters would rush out from the side. "Boy, are you Qing Xuandan's apprentice?" The mysterious female voice sounded again, and her charming tone made people think. Guan quickly replied, "Yes, senior, Qing Xuandan is my master." "Who are you and why are you here?" "The one who can be here is naturally your master. Qing Xuandan is my disciple. The fact that you can come in means that his time has come, right?" The mysterious female voice suppressed her smile. With a hint of emotion in her tone, Guan responded, "It turns out to be the master. I met the master. The master's end has indeed arrived. He said that he would imitate you and want to find a place where no one knows to meet the end of his life." The cave fell into silence. Guan remained vigilant. If the other party wanted to take action against him, regardless of whether he was the master or not, don't blame him for being ruthless. The Qianshu sword is in his hand, and he has never seen blood. A long time, just when Guan couldn't help but speak, the other party's voice sounded again. "Did Qing Xuandan tell you my identity?" Guan replied in a low voice, "Master told me everything. You are from Qianqiu Pavilion. He also asked me to be ready to meet the people from Qianqiu Pavilion at any time. Looking at how timid you are, and how cautious you were when you came in, you must not have done it voluntarily, right? You didn't know all this until he handed over the Valley Master to you?" The other party asked jokingly. Guan sighed, saying nothing. This time, he didn't act. He was really helpless. "Since you have become my disciple, you are naturally my disciple. If you stay here for another 10 years, I will be able to leave Taicang's sect after 10 years without causing any trouble to you." Hearing this, Guan couldn't help but ask, "Dare you ask the master's name?" "My surname is Jiang and my first name is Qiong. As for my name in the world of immortality, it's okay not to mention it. Jiang Qiong. The name is quite nice, but I don't know how many years he has lived." Just as Guan was thinking about it, a coffin suddenly opened in front of him, which frightened him into raising his sword. Two things flew out of the coffin and landed in front of him. He looked down and saw a small black clock and a secret book. This can be regarded as a greeting gift from me to my disciple. The soul-shaking bell can control all the poisons of 10,000 Gus mysterious art. As long as you shake it, all the zombies in this cave will be at your disposal. That secret book is my cultivation method, Yin-Yang Ju. The Yin-Yang Ju contains the secrets on how to refine the soul-shaking bell. This is something that even your master can't learn. Jiang Qiong's voice sounded a little tired. Guan quickly bent down to thank him, and he couldn't help but ask, "My disciple has mediocre qualifications, why does the master treat his disciple so well?" "Huh, your qualifications are mediocre? Boy, although I don't know what extraordinary skills you have practiced, your actual cultivation level is definitely more than the 4th level of Qi training realm. You should have already established the foundation. You can build the foundation at a young age, so you can be considered as one. Genius, you can suppress your arrogance and concentrate on hiding in the outer sect as a handyman disciple. Although I don't know what you are carrying, at least it seems that you are very resistant to Taicang sect. Your qualifications satisfy me, and your style of doing things is to my liking. Practice well, and I will teach you the magic later. When you inherit my mantle, I will introduce you to Qianqiu Pavilion and teach you in earnest." Disciple. Jiang Qiong returned to her previous charming laughter, and Guan's expression changed, feeling like he had been seen through and embarrassed. Guan took a deep breath and said, "Thank you, Master. If Master has any instructions, you can tell me at any time." After saying that, he leaned over and picked up the soul-shaking bell and Yin-Yang Ju, turned around and left. Jiang Qiong's voice no longer sounded in the cave, and Guan quickly returned to the Baiyang cave. He meditated under the tree and began to read the Yin and Yang Ju. He thought about whether Jiang Qiong had malicious intentions. If it's only 10 years, I won't be afraid. Not only is he in the Nascent Soul Realm, he also masters the Taicang Jingshen sword. Jiang Qiong is obviously not a good person. She is just afraid of Guan's strength at the Foundation Establishment realm. In just 10 years, how can she go from being afraid of the Foundation Establishment realm to overturning the Nascent Soul Realm to suppress her? She didn't hide here just now. According to Jindan, she has been dead for 70 years, take advantage of these 10 years to find ways to get more spells and secrets from her. In 10 years, if she leaves honestly, Guan will not deceive his master and destroy his ancestors. If she had malicious intentions, then Guan could only let Tianshu Jian see blood, what to eat for lunch. Chapter 24 Jiang Qiong, the 9th level of Jindan realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Spring goes and autumn comes, and 5 years have passed in a flash. During these 5 years, Guan still maintained the plan of investing 1 year of his life every night. After 5 years, he invested more than 1,800 years of his life and reached the 8th level of the Nascent Soul Realm. After passing the 5th level of the Nascent Soul Realm, the time required for each small level doubled. Guan, who was evolving, could only practice hard, which took longer. Now he has more than 10,200 years of life left. The addition of the 8th scenery cave heaven has increased his annual income of life. 5 years later, there were 3 more menial disciples in Xian Valley, all of whom worshipped Guan as their master, 2 men and 1 woman, named Tangyu, Su Han, and Jindan from oldest to youngest. Guan no longer selected according to qualifications. He chose disciples with mediocre qualifications, so as not to cause trouble. The maximum lifespan of the 3 was about 200 years. On this basis, he tried his best to choose disciples who were in line with his eyes. One day, at the entrance of the valley, Xiaochuan, Yilan, Wu Xian, Tangyu, Su Han, and Jindan surrounded Lu Jiujiao. "Brother, I wish you success. Uncle, don't forget us when you go to the outer gate. Don't worry, I'm here in the Medicine Valley. If you fail, I'll laugh at you." Today is the day when Lu Jiujia goes to the outer gate to take the test. Guan cuts a Tsongting fruit into 4 parts and gives them to 4 junior brothers and sisters, which greatly increases their cultivation. Lu Jiujia is the first to reach the 9th level of Qi training. It is worth mentioning that since eating Tsongting fruit, Wu Xian has completely calmed down. He practices in the house every night and no longer goes over mountains and ridges. He has also become more diligent in doing things. The 23-year-old Lu Jiujia is full of vigor and energy. He looks at the attic where the eldest brother lives. He sees that the eldest brother is standing in front of the window looking at him, which warms his heart. Wait for my good news. I won't let the eldest brother down. Lu Jiujia smiled proudly, then turned and left. With the Kenfeng leg that he has practiced for many years, he feels that he can make a name for himself in the outer gate. Guan, who was dressed in a black robe with a white background, watched Lu Jiujia leave from afar, feeling a special feeling in his heart. He couldn't tell whether he was relieved or reluctant, or maybe both. I'm only 27 years old and I'm so sentimental. What will happen when I'm 200, 2000, or even 20,000 years old? Guan laughed at himself. He turned and walked to the table and sat down. He picked up the Green Hero's Travels and continued to savor it. This was the Green Hero's Travels that was just published last year. In his opinion, this is definitely a masterpiece. The author of the book has reached perfection in writing about love, flowers, snow and moon. An hour later, Wu Xian came to visit. At the age of 21, he was still dressed as a monk. Guan often teased him as the jade-faced Tang monk. Especially after wearing the monk's robe that Guan specially customized for him in the outer gate, he looked more elegant. Big brother, the gardens on the mountain have been watered. Do you have any instructions today? Wu Xian walked to Guan and said softly. He glanced at the Green Hero's Travels and his fair and handsome face flushed instantly. Guan said without even raising his eyes, nothing, you can go down and practice. Wu Xian walked to the other side of the table, but did not leave. He looked hesitant. Guan glanced at him and asked, what else? Without wearing a black robe, he already felt the pressure of a superior. The harvest of Medicine Valley has been good in recent years, and he did not keep a small treasury, so he bought new clothes for everyone in Medicine Valley out of his own pocket. Now everyone does not look like a menial disciple. Wu Xian gritted his teeth and said, brother, I'll be honest. With my qualifications, it is impossible for me to become an outer sect disciple. I really want to stay with you in Medicine Valley for the rest of my life. Guan put down the Green Hero's travel notes and looked at him carefully. Isn't there one meaning behind his words? He wants to make progress. Guan frowned, looking embarrassed. Seeing his expression, Wu Xian suddenly became anxious and knelt down directly. Brother, what am I still lacking? I am more hardworking and obedient than them, and they all want to go to the outer sect, but I don't want to go. Wu Xian said excitedly. His eyes were red. Guan saw that he activated some kind of skills, which made his blood surge. Good boy, learn from me, right? Guan said earnestly, Wu Xin, in my heart, there is no good or bad, just like that Songting fruit, which my brother also divided equally between you, but the position of the eldest disciple is of great importance, and even represents the next valley master. Although I am a menial disciple, my treatment is not inferior to that of ordinary outer disciples. I have to accept the grace of the sect. You seem to be hiding something from me. Of course, everyone has their own difficulties that cannot be told, and I don't want to ask more. You will always be my junior brother, but the position of the eldest disciple. At the end, he sighed and looked helpless. Wu Xian was stunned. He didn't expect that his actions many years ago had been noticed by the eldest brother. His first reaction was panic, followed by touching. The last time he investigated intelligence late at night was 5 years ago, and the senior brother actually tolerated him for 5 years. What does this mean? The senior brother really treats him as his own. Putting himself in the senior brother's shoes, Wu Xian felt that if he were in the position of the senior brother, he would have severely punished such a junior brother. The more Wu Xian thought about it, the more ashamed he felt. He really couldn't act anymore. Senior brother, actually. Wu Xian gritted his teeth, as if he had made a great decision. Actually, I come from Qianqiu Pavilion. My father is one of the 72 pavilion masters of Qianqiu Pavilion. I am stupid and have been bullied by my brothers and sisters for many years, so I escaped. The reason why I was groping around in those nights was because I heard about senior brother Liya. I want to see if there is an opportunity and hope to prove myself to my father someday, but I have given up now. Not to mention comparing with my brothers and sisters, even compared with Lu Jiujia, I am far behind. Wu Xian said in one breath. After speaking, he lowered his head and did not dare to look at Guan. Guan looked shocked and disbelieving. You. Hearing the senior brother's voice, Wu Xian was even more ashamed and pressed his forehead tightly to the ground. Guan really didn't expect Wu Xian to come from Qianqiu Pavilion. What is this thing called? Just stop calling it Xiangu, call it Qianqiu Valley. Guan secretly spread out his consciousness to form an invisible barrier to prevent anyone from eavesdropping. He was silent for a while, then sighed heavily and said, "That's all, let's get up and talk first." Upon hearing this, Wu Xian, who was uneasy, breathed a sigh of relief secretly. Wu Xian stood up and was even more moved when he saw the complicated expression on Guan's face. Sure enough, senior brother treats me sincerely. I don't know much about Qianqiu Pavilion. I heard that Qianqiu Pavilion is a demonic sect. Guan took a deep breath and asked. Wu Xian nodded and said, "It is indeed the devil's way, and it is the most evil devil's sect. There are corpse ways, gu magic, soul-catching, poisons, etc. The ways of ordinary demons are all-encompassing. I just couldn't stay any longer, so I ran away. From. Then will your father come to look for you? I have to think about other disciples." Guan asked worriedly. Wu Xian quickly waved his hand and said, "How could he come to me? He wishes I was dead. I am his greatest shame." That when Guan heard this, his expression softened slightly, and he scolded, "Wu Xin, I don't allow you to belittle yourself like this. How can a person's quality be judged by his or her cultivation level?" That Wu Xian couldn't help scratching his head and said with a smile, "I know, but Qianqiu Pavilion is a demonic path. Senior brother, people in the demonic path are not normal." Guan nodded. He seemed to remember something and asked, "By the way, have you ever heard of the name Jiang Qiong in Qianqiu Pavilion?" Jiang Qiong. Wu Xian was stunned, frowning in thought. After a few breaths, he suddenly realized and said, "I remembered that she was the #1 genius of Qianqiu Pavilion 100 years ago and the daughter of the second pavilion master, but she has fallen for many years. I heard my father mention it when I was a child, and I want my eldest brother to marry Jiang Qiong." When Guan heard this, he couldn't help but curiously asked, "How old is your father?" That Wu Xian replied, "Almost 500 years old, he has more than 100 children, so even if I lose him, he doesn't care." Guan was silent. The devilish style is quite desirable. Guan asked a few more questions, but unfortunately Wu Xian didn't know much about Jiang Qiong. "Since you have confessed your origins, I will train you to be a top disciple. If you can exchange your position as a top disciple of Igu for a demon cultivator who has returned from his own way, it will be considered a merit. However, this matter cannot be disclosed for the time being. Go out and conquer everyone in the valley with your performance," Guan said seriously. As soon as these words came out, Wu Xian was ecstatic. He was about to thank Guan, but he heard Guan continue to warn, "From now on, you can't mention Qianqiu Pavilion, even if you are alone in private. This is Taicang Sect, and you may be caught talking to yourself." Heard. Wu Xian nodded quickly and followed the instructions carefully. The two senior brothers changed the subject and talked about other trivial matters. Wu Xian felt closer to his senior brother. This feeling made him very happy. He should have confessed to his senior brother a long time ago. At night, there are 8 scenic spots in the cave sky. Guan went all the way to an open space next to the underground river and started sowing medicinal herbs. His movements are not fast. He does not practice much on weekdays and enjoys the process of sowing. What he sows is not flowers and plants, but life. Chinese people love farming in their bones, and this habit followed their souls to the world of immortality. After he finished planting, he looked at his newly opened garden with satisfaction. It was very neat and had a unique sense of beauty. "Good disciple son, come in." Jiang Qiong's melodious voice came from a cave entrance, and Guan immediately walked away. Over the years, Jiang Qiong summoned him from time to time, asking him to help pick some medicinal materials, and even asked him to help make elixirs. Gu An's work was not in vain. During this process, his alchemy skills improved by leaps and bounds. Jiang Qiong's alchemy skills are far stronger than Jindan, which can be seen from the aspect of teaching people. All the way to the cave, it was still dark here. There was an alchemy furnace half a person high in the open space, with carbon ash piled under the furnace. Just as Guan was about to speak, he suddenly heard movement. He looked intently and saw a coffin deep inside began to tremble. Boom! The coffin boards fell and hit the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Guan saw a hand crawling out of the standing coffin. It was as skinny as a ghost's claw. He immediately threw away a lifespan test. Jiang Qiong, 9th level of Dan Formation Realm 185/304/2490, good guy. Close to the maximum lifespan of 2,500 years. Why is it that the 9th level of the Dan Formation Realm only has a lifespan of 300 years? Could it be related to her injury? Guan thought in confusion, and at the same time, the last trace of fear in his heart disappeared. Happy Children's Day. Please give me a monthly pass. It will be on the shelves at the end of June. At that time, one update will be added for every 500 monthly passes. P.S. There is an activity about the old book I Became an Immortal in the Human World in the book review area. Participants have the opportunity to get the title of fan. Friends who are interested in this can go and have a look. Chapter 25. Have you ever heard of the Nascent Soul Realm? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Crack, that a shriveled foot stepped out of the coffin, stepped on a piece of charcoal, and broke it. Guan saw that it was a ragged woman with disheveled hair and an extremely thin body, as if her flesh and blood had been drained. She could vaguely see that the robe on her body was a white dress, with torn sleeves and trouser legs. She staggered out like a ghost. Jiang Qiong slowly raised her face. Her face was also shriveled, her eye sockets were deep, and her eyes were bulging, which was very scary. Her eyes fell on Guan, and he was so scared that he lowered his head quickly. My dear disciple, thanks to you for helping me refine the elixir for the past 5 years, I recovered quickly. Jiang Qiong forced a smile, which was even more terrifying, and there was turbid air coming out of her mouth. She no longer called herself this seat, but I, which made the relationship between the two closer. Guan suppressed his discomfort and said, this is what the disciple should do, but the disciple is confused. Ask. Jiang Qiong replied while trembling towards the alchemy furnace. Guan looked at her and asked, since alchemy can help you recover quickly, why didn't you let my master help you make the alchemy before? Jindan thought Jiang Qiong had been dead for 70 years, that is, she had been hiding here for 70 years, and Jindan had never found that she was still alive. Jiang Qiong smiled and said, because I don't trust him. Your master was just forced to become my disciple. His heart is wavering, and he might betray me at any time. Half of the coffins in this cave are his disciples. Guan was silent. He believed that Jiang Qiong was telling the truth, because Meng Lang ended up like this. Jiang Qiong sat in front of the alchemy furnace, raised his hand and waved it, and the herbs piled next to him flew into the furnace. 5 years have passed. How many levels of foundation building are you now? Jiang Qiong asked. Guan's apparent cultivation level was the 5th level of qi training, but Jiang Qiong determined that he was at the foundation building level. Guan replied, I'm almost at the 3rd level. Too slow, don't neglect your cultivation on weekdays. I was building my foundation at the age of 18 and forming an elixir at the age of 40. If I hadn't studied the way of elixir and the way of formation for decades, I would have been at the nascent soul level. Have you ever heard of the nascent soul level? Jiang Qiong stared at the elixir furnace and said casually. Guan nodded quickly and said, the nascent soul level is full of immortals, and they are rarely seen in the outer sect. Humph, what immortals, they are just stronger cultivators. When I fully recover, I will find a place to impact the nascent soul level. At that time, you will have another nascent soul level supporter. How about it, are you excited? Jiang Qiong said the latter part with a proud tone. Her voice was charming, completely different from her terrifying image. Thank you for your care, master. Do you need my help? Guan stepped forward and said. Jiang Qiong replied, just watch from the side, see how I make the elixir, and chat by the way. She raised her hand and clapped, motioning Guan to sit next to her. Guan sat down, but kept a distance from her, and was alert in his heart. No matter how good Jiang Qiong was to him, at least before she left, he would never take it lightly. Meng Lang was a lesson from the past. It is estimated that he did not doubt the process of Xiandan before he died. Jiang Qiong asked about his life and origins. He did not hide it and roughly told about his first half of life. Of course, he did not mention the Ji family, but only said that he was born as a servant and joined the Taicang sect after his spiritual roots were detected. After chatting for half an hour, Jiang Qiong let Guan leave and asked him to wait for the next 3 nights. There would be a big reward after the task was completed. Guan arrived as expected. The 3rd night arrived. Guan sat in meditation opposite the elixir furnace, holding the Yin-Yang Sutra in his hand, and asked Jiang Qiong from time to time. Jiang Qiong was annoyed by the questions and couldn't help but scold. "You kid, you won't lie to me on purpose, right? You have reached the foundation building stage at such a young age, how can your understanding be so stupid?" Guan said aggrievedly. "Refine the elixir, absorb the qi." Jiang Qiong suddenly didn't know what to say, and suddenly, her attention was attracted by the alchemy furnace. More and more hot air came out of the alchemy furnace, and the air holes on the furnace cover turned dark green, which was very strange. Guan was horrified. What kind of elixir was she refining? Why did it feel like a poisonous elixir? Jiang Qiong's eyes showed excitement. She stopped talking and stared at the alchemy furnace. Time passed by minute. Guan was on guard at any time to avoid Jiang Qiong's surprise attack. I don't know how long it has passed. A muffled sound came from the alchemy furnace, and Jiang Qiong's face showed a smile, which was uglier than crying. She raised her right hand and stretched out 2 fingers, and the furnace cover flew up. Her right hand followed and grabbed it, and a pill flew out of the furnace. As soon as it entered her hand, she threw it directly into her mouth, so fast. As if she was afraid that Guan would snatch it. After taking the pill, Jiang Qiong immediately crossed her legs and practiced her skills. In less than 3 breaths, wisps of white gas emerged from her body. Guan stood up and slowly backed away from her. More and more white gas appeared, lingering around Jiang Qiong, making her figure blurry. At first glance, she looked like a zombie in the white mist. Guan began to constantly check her lifespan to prevent her from suddenly entering the Nascent Soul Realm. Jiang Qiong's current lifespan began to increase. It was the first time that Guan saw someone's lifespan increase like this. It was quite shocking to see it in numbers. He suddenly became very interested in Jiang Qiong's pill. What kind of miraculous medicine was this? Not only was Jiang Qiong's lifespan increasing, but her aura was also rising, and soon surpassed the aura of the Foundation Establishment Realm, a true Jindan realm cultivator. Guan keenly discovered that Jiang Qiong's body was recovering, and her body was getting thicker, like a balloon inflated. There's something. He waited patiently. Gradually, Jiang Qiong's breathing sounded in the cave, getting heavier and heavier, and in the end it even roared like a wild beast. For a long time, Jiang Qiong's breathing stopped suddenly, and Guan noticed that her realm had not broken through to the Nascent Soul Realm, so she was not so nervous. In the white mist, Jiang Qiong stretched out his graceful figure, looking completely different from before. She walked out of the white mist, still disheveled and ragged, but there were patches of fair skin under her shabby clothes, which made Guan's face feel hot in the dark cave, and he couldn't help but look away. I haven't walked like this for a long time, Jiang Qiong said in a nostalgic tone. She walked all the way to Guan, leaned forward, pushed her hair away with both hands, and asked, "How are you, my dear disciple? Is your master good-looking?" Guan took a quick glance. Although her face was dirty, judging from her facial features, she was indeed a rare beauty. In his experience, in terms of appearance, only Ji Xiaoyu, the 3rd daughter of the Ji family, and Li Xuanyu, an outer disciple, could compare. My master is one of the most beautiful in the world, but my disciple is more concerned about your physical condition. Is your injury healed? Guan asked with his fists clasped, his words sincere. Once the injury is healed, leave as soon as possible. It's still early to recover. I have to rest for another 5 years. Jiang Qiong smiled, looking at Guan with her bright eyes, wondering what she was thinking. Call. She suddenly hit Guan with a palm, as fast as lightning, and then stopped on his chest. The strong wind caused his robe to be pulled back wantonly. Jiang Qiong asked with a half-smile, "Why don't you hide?" Guan's face was stiff and he said, "I didn't have time to react." In fact, this was not the case. In his eyes, Jiang Qiong's movements were too slow. In an instant, his dragon energy could counterattack her spiritual power. She stopped not to spare Guan's life, but to save her own. Jiang Qiong couldn't help laughing. She was smiling brightly, and she even laughed in the end. Guan looked at her and smiled without interrupting her. After laughing for a while, Jiang Qiong turned and walked towards the alchemy furnace and said, "Don't worry, I will not kill my disciples. When Jindan wanted to betray me, I spared his life and even used his protection to hide in Taicang. As long as you respect me, I will never let you down, and if someone bullies you, I will not stand by and watch." When Guan heard this, he couldn't help laughing. Jiang Qiong walked in front of the alchemy furnace, turned to look at Guan, and said, "Leave me a new set of clothes. You can go back. Come back tomorrow night and I will teach you the magic." Guan immediately took out a set of his own white robes from his storage bag, placed them gently on the ground, then raised his hand to salute Jiang Qiong, and left. When he disappeared into the darkness, Jiang Qiong turned around. She came to the white robe, raised her hand to grab the white robe from the air, smelled the smell on it, and chuckled. In the early morning, Guan was leading everyone in Yaogu to practice. A man came from the mouth of the valley. It was Ruye. Ruye is still dressed in black. Compared with 5 years ago, he is more energetic and exudes the aura of a strong man. His arrival immediately attracted everyone's attention. "It's senior brother Ruye." Xiaochuan shouted in surprise. Guan immediately walked towards Ruye and asked everyone to continue practicing. He came to Ruye and was about to speak, but Ruye beat him to it. "Go upstairs and talk." Something's wrong. Guan suddenly became nervous. What was worthy of Ruye's personal visit? He immediately took Ruye to the attic. After going upstairs and entering the house, he closed the door. Ruye walked to the table, raised his hand, and a tsang fruit appeared on the table, which made Guan stunned. 4 years ago, a kangvine fruit appeared in the pill hall of the outer gate. I bought it, but the task was heavy and I never had the chance to give it to you. Ruye said with a smile. Guan looked strange. Ruye asked, "What's wrong?" Guan felt that the matter could not be concealed, so he faked a cough and said, "I sold this fruit to the elixir hall." In order to get rid of suspicion, he sold it at a low price, which made the elders of the alchemy hall praise him for being grateful to the sect. The reason why Guan dared to sell it was because Ruye said that Songting fruit was not rare in Taicang sect. Although there were none in the outer sect, there were many in the inner sect. To be precise, there were rare treasures in the world in the inner sect. He never expected that Ruye would buy it back. Ruye said helplessly, "This matter has caused such a fuss. This fruit can enhance qi and blood. It is a very rare treasure of heaven and earth. How can you sell it? How many spiritual stones did you sell?" 20 middle-grade spiritual stones. What? I spent 10 high-grade spiritual stones. Ruye's eyes widened. 1 high-grade spiritual stone is equivalent to 100 middle-grade spiritual stones. The two fell into silence at the same time. Guan actually felt that it was not a loss. With the Songting fruit, he established a good friendship with Zhu Qinglu from the pill hall. Zhu Qinglu took good care of him in the next 4 years and provided many facilities. However, he was a little embarrassed when facing Ruye. Ruye said quietly, "Forget it, just make a contribution to the sect. Apart from this, I have one more thing to ask you about." Chapter 26, The World Outer Sect Conference. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's the matter? Guan asked, praying in his heart that it wouldn't be a problem. He didn't want to get involved in the whirlpool of fighting at the outer gate. Ruye smiled and said, "Don't you like planting? I heard you say before that you also helped a certain outer disciple take care of the cave. Now I have this opportunity. The salary is good. You can get a medium-grade spiritual stone for 1 year. A bottle of spiritual energy pill." When Guan heard that it turned out to be this, he felt relieved. Naturally, he would not refuse something that could increase his lifespan. After all, he didn't practice much on weekdays and had a lot of time. He began to ask about the identity of his employer, and Ruye did not hide it. The outer disciple was Ruye's friend, and his cave was near the outer city. After Guan agreed, Ruye immediately took him there. Ruye was flying with his sword, and Guan was standing behind him, riding the sword together. Their figures attracted the yearning of Xiaochuan, Yilan and others. Who doesn't yearn for flying with a sword? The tall Tangyu said with emotion, "How great would it be if Master could learn sword-driving skills from Uncle Ruye and then teach us." Next to him, Su Han, who was thin and handsome, nodded. Although he had been in Yaogu for 4 years, he still longed for the outer door in his heart. Not only him, but also Tangyu and Jinqin. Yilan didn't say much and took Jinqin back to the academy to practice. The other side, on the mountains, Ruye's sword control was very fast. He looked forward, his black clothes fluttering, and his hair waving wildly, showing his free and uninhibited temperament. I noticed that there are more handyman disciples in the Yao Valley than before. Junior brother Gu, it is better to recruit as few disciples as possible and invest more spiritual stones in your own practice. Ruye said seriously. Although Guan always said that his talent was not good, he always felt that there was still hope. He didn't want that 100 years later, he would still be in his prime while Guan would be in his twilight years. Ruye has been a member of Taicang Sect for so many years. He has a few good friends and some friends with benefits, but in his heart, they are no match for junior brother Gu. Junior brother Gu is the only person who doesn't want to repay the kindness to him. He doesn't want to lose this kind of friendship. Guan smiled and said, "Senior brotherly, don't worry. The reason why I recruit more disciples is because there are more gardens in the Medicine Valley. Every year I turn in more and more medicinal herbs. The pill hall is also gradually improving my treatment. I will not give up practicing." When Ruye heard this, a smile appeared on his face. "That's right. You are a diligent boy and can always achieve great results. How can I compare with senior brother? Senior brother's reputation is so resounding outside." The two began to compliment each other. Ruye usually hated such polite words, but for some reason, when these words came out of junior brother Gu's mouth, he felt inexplicably happy. 2 hours later, Ruye sent Guan back to Xuangu, and then left with his sword. As soon as Guan landed, he was surrounded by 2 disciples, none other than Su Han and Jinqin. They were curious about where Guan had gone, but Guan didn't hide it and sent them away after saying a few words. Lu Jiujia's departure greatly stimulated the Yaogu disciples, making Yaogu a lot deserted. Whenever they had free time, the disciples practiced in their respective rooms, hoping to catch up with Lu Jiujia as soon as possible. Guan returned to the house, picked up the Yin-Yang Ju and started to read it. Starting tonight, Jiang Qiong would teach him the magic, and he was looking forward to it. Who among the immortal cultivators would mind having too many spells? Moreover, Guan lacks many basic spells. Late at night, the 8 views cave sky, under the cane tree, Jiang Qiong, dressed in white, had her black hair spread freely, like a fairy descending to earth. At this moment, her beautiful face was full of anger. "Why are you so stupid? I told you the secret of luck several times, but why can't you remember it?" Jiang Qiong suppressed her anger and scolded. She stood next to Guan, her eyes fixed on the black energy in his hand. "She is teaching the art of soul catching, which can steal people's souls and is extremely sinister." Guan said helplessly, "Master, how long have you been teaching me? Can you be a little patient?" It's just. Jiang Qiong suddenly didn't know what to say. Before recovering her body, she had looked forward to teaching Guan. After all, in her eyes, Guan was a genius, but the result was different from what she thought. This guy is so evil. Teach him the art of sword control and he will be proficient at it, but teaching him other skills will be the same as starting to cultivate immortality for the first time. When it comes to swordsmanship, Guan is definitely the strongest genius she has ever seen. But the key is that she is not good at swordsmanship. If I could learn everything easily, how could I end up as a handyman disciple? Guan sighed. Jiang Qiong held it in for a long time and then said, "That's not so stupid, right?" Guan's hand shook. He is truly worthy of being a member of the Devil's Path, and his words are so damn hurtful. Guan lost his temper and said, "I also have my own advantages. In terms of swordsmanship talent, master, you may not even be able to match me. That when Jiang Qiong heard this, she immediately became happy and asked with a smile, how about giving it a try? We don't use spiritual power, we just compete with sword moves. Okay. Guan released his hands and the black energy dissipated. He stood up and prepared to teach Jiang Qiong a lesson. Jiang Qiong moved 2 steps to the side, raised her right hand, stretched out her index and middle fingers, put them together, and said with a smile, since we are sparring, don't hurt your kindness and use your fingers as swords. Guan nodded, his left hand behind his waist and his right hand in front. Jiang Qiong narrowed her eyes. For some reason, when Guan raised his hand, she felt inexplicably panicked. What happened to me? Why was I scared by a foundation-building boy? Jiang Qiong secretly cursed herself for being useless and losing the arrogance that she once had. She immediately raised her finger to stab Guan, and with this move, she showed the speed of the Dongjie realm. Guan struck her fingers with 2 fingers of his right hand, as if flicking a sword, knocking her arm away. Jiang Qiong's eyes narrowed, her steps moved, and she passed by Gu and sighed like a ghost, pointing her fingers at his ribs like swords. Guan turned around, pointed his fingers downward, and stabbed away, hitting the back of her hand. She felt the sting and subconsciously stopped her hand. The 2 of them moved around under the tree, trying to show off their tricks. Jiang Qiong's attack was fierce, but Guan seemed to be flowing smoothly. After 30 moves, Guan clearly noticed that Jiang Qiong was getting anxious, so he revealed a flaw and let her hit him in the abdomen, and he fell back with laughter. Jiang Qiong did not take advantage of the victory. She stood up and stared at Guan with burning eyes. Guan pretended to be in pain, and he was frightened by her eyes. What kind of look is this? It was as if he wanted to eat him. Jiang Qiong took a deep breath and said, okay, I still underestimated your swordsmanship. Although your sword moves just now were unorganized, each move was simple and direct, pointing directly at the opponent's flaw. You are a swordsman who is rare to see in 100 years. A genius. If he has a good teacher, he will definitely become famous as a swordsman in the future. Guan shook his head and said, forget it. If you become famous all over the world, in that case many people will definitely come to trouble me. I hate fighting, let alone fighting. Jiang Qiong was stunned for a moment and found it very interesting. This was her first time meeting such a cowardly genius. Master is in a hurry. I shouldn't scold you. Come on, continue to practice soul stirring. Although you are suitable for swordsmanship, there are some spells that you must master so that you can be prepared. Jiang Qiong waved. Guan immediately approached and continued to practice the soul stirring technique. After some discussion, Jiang Qiong's attitude did indeed improve a lot. Her gentle voice even made him get goosebumps occasionally. In this way, Guan came to Baiying Cave to practice spells with Jiang Qiong every night. As long as he practiced the spell until it appeared on the attribute panel, he would start practicing the next spell. Jiang Qiong thought he was frustrated, so she didn't force him. Anyway, she had many spells. It was quite interesting for her to be able to teach the younger generation while recovering from her injuries. In addition, Guan will go to the cave of the outer disciples every other month to take care of the medicinal materials in the cave. At the end of the year, winter snow falls, covering the sky and the sun. Guan, who was wearing a hat on his head, walked halfway up the mountain and came to a cave. Just as he was about to take out his token, he suddenly noticed something. There's someone inside. There's more than one person. Guan immediately wanted to leave, but the communication in the cave suddenly stopped. If he left now, it would prove that he could penetrate the restrictions and capture the situation in the cave. He could only press the token on the mountain gate, and the mountain gate opened. He walked into the cave, walked through the cave passage, and came to the cave. When he saw 3 people in the cave, he was stunned. He quickly bent down and saluted, and said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that Senior was back, so I won't disturb you for now. After that, he turned around and prepared to leave. The master of the cave is named Chenli. He looks to be in his early 40s and has the elegant temperament of a scholar. He raised his hand and said with a smile, no need, you do your thing, and we will talk about ours. Hearing this, Guan could only turn around, salute again, and then walk towards the herb area not far away. Guan noticed the other 2 people, a man and a woman. The woman was Li Xuanyu, who had fought against him before. and that man is not Yang, but another person, with a graceful demeanor and a handsome face, just like the gentleman walking out of the painting. Even a man will be amazed by his appearance when he sees it. Li Xuanyu looked at Guan. She obviously recognized Guan, but she didn't speak. Guan quietly explored the lifespan of the handsome man, Xiao Qinjun, first level of Dan Formation Realm 58/621/1508, level 1 of the Dan Formation Realm. Inner Disciple. After Chen Li saw Guan starting to pick herbs, he turned to look at Li Xuanyu and Xiao Qinjun, and sighed. The World Outer Sect Conference is about to start, and this time it will be hosted at Taicang Sect. We are under great pressure. Xiao Qinjun smiled and said, "What are you afraid of? There are many geniuses in the Outer Sect. Even if those sects join forces, it will be difficult to overpower Taicangmen. Within Taicang dynasty, Taicangmen is the strongest." Chen Li shook his head and said, "I heard that the outer sects of Gu Hao Sect, Jianzhue Sect, and Qianqiu Pavilion each have geniuses with dual spiritual roots. They are deliberately stuck in their realms, waiting for this outer sect conference." He paused, looked at Lord Xiao Chen, and said resentfully, "Junior brother Xiao, why didn't you wait before making a breakthrough? Your master should know about this." Xiao Qinjun smiled and said, "Senior brother Chen, the World Outer Sect Conference will be held at least twice within 100 years. How can monks like us care so much about the outcome? Moreover, Taicang Sect has geniuses born every year. Don't worry, the burden will not be on you. It's just on you." The three of them were chatting and laughing around the outer gate. Most of the time, Xiao Qinjun and Chen Li were talking, and Li Xuanyu occasionally interrupted, thanks to just asking for a reward of 333 starting coins, Xiao AI, a reward of 100 starting coins, and bookfriend 20221221491045 for a reward of 100 starting coins. How did you spend June 1st? Although it's Children's Day, it feels like everyone is wishing happiness. Chapter 27 Wan Yin Sect, Su Ruye. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Outer Sect Conference of the World. Outer Sect geniuses from all major sects gathered at Taicang Sect. Including disciples from Qianqiu Pavilion. Guan listened with great interest. Such a grand event must be very exciting, but he was a little worried. Would the cultivators from Qianqiu Pavilion take the opportunity to find him and force him to provide information about Taicang Sect? Chen Li and the other two talked about other things, and the topic gradually led to the inner sect. Chen Li was very interested in the inner sect and was curious about what it was like. Xiao Qinjun briefly talked about the prosperous inner sect city, the inheritance of each peak with a strong Taoist heritage, the rich task rewards, etc. Guan seemed to be listening to a book, but Guan still didn't yearn for it. The inner sect disciples also had to defend the Taicang dynasty. Not only did they have to slay demons and monsters in the country, but they also had to help the dynasty resist the invasion of other dynasties. It was a headache to hear about it. After Guan finished his work and harvested hundreds of years of life, he came to Chen Li and prepared to say goodbye. "You are very meticulous in your work. Can you help me look after the cave?" Li Xuanyu suddenly said. Chen Li smiled and said, "This boy is really satisfactory in his work and very disciplined. He was recommended by Li Ye and is trustworthy." Li Xuanyu stared at Guan, waiting for his answer. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Guan could not refuse and nodded in agreement. "Senior brothers, continue to talk. I will take him to find the way." Li Xuanyu said, and got up and left. Guan hurriedly saluted Chen Li and Xiao Qinjun, and then followed Li Xuanyu's steps. After the cave gate was closed, Xiao Qinjun smiled and asked, "The grievances of the Li family are really complicated. Do you think that junior sister Li has a grudge against Li Ye?" Chen Li shook his head and said, "How could there be a grudge? If there was a grudge, she would not have spoken for Li Ye at the beginning. Li Ye died at the hands of Yang a long time ago. Now Yang has been missing for several years. I suspect that he was killed by Li Ye." Xiao Qinjun raised his teacup and his eyes became subtle. After leaving the cave, Guan followed Li Xuanyu. The two rode on the same sword, but kept a certain distance. Standing behind Li Xuanyu, Guan could smell a special fragrance, which was much better than the smell on Jiang Qiong. Although Jiang Qiong had been washed, the smell of death had not completely disappeared. No words were spoken along the way. Li Xuanyu's temperament was too cold, so Guan was too lazy to speak. Her cave was not too far from Qinli. Not long after, they landed. Guan clearly felt that the restrictions of her cave were stronger, and this feeling was even stronger after entering the cave. What a rich spiritual energy. Li Xuanyu began to explain the origin and cultivation process of the herbs in the cave, and Guan listened carefully. After an incense stick of time, Li Xuanyu handed him a token. With this token, he could directly open the cave. She offered the same treatment as Qinli. For Guan, harvesting herbs was enough for his life. If he could get spirit stones, he would not refuse. Guan clasped his fists and bowed, then left. Wait, how is your relationship with Liya? Li Xuanyu suddenly asked. Guan stopped and turned back and said, Liya is my senior brother, so we have a good relationship. He could see that Li Xuanyu and Liya should have a good relationship. If there was a grudge, she couldn't use him, a chore's disciple, to plot against Liya, right? Li Xuanyu didn't say much, just nodded slightly. Guan left again. It wasn't tiring to help outer disciples take care of the cave house. Basically, they would go there once every half a month or a month. Guan felt that he could take on more work. His career tree became more and more abundant. Baiying Cave Heaven and Xian Valley were the main trunks. If they branched out, their lifespan would be much longer. Strive to reach a lifespan of 100,000 years as soon as possible. The winter snow melted, the new year arrived, and before dusk, Xian Valley began to decorate with lights and colors. In front of the attic, the youngest Jinqin squatted on the ground, cutting paper while whispering, Master, what is the meaning of the spring festival? She is 9 years younger than Guan, with a sweet face, big eyes, a small figure, and a gentle personality. Even Lu Jiujia and Xiaochuan like her very much. When I was a child, I heard an old man say that the spring festival represents the beginning of a brand new year, bidding farewell to the old and welcoming the new. At this time of year, people will bless each other. It just so happens that there is nothing worth celebrating in Yaogu, so let's set the spring festival. Guan said as he sat aside, weaving lanterns in his hands. Not far away, Wu Xin, Xiaochuan, and Tang Yu were hanging lanterns and pasting red paper. Yilan was preparing dishes, and Su Han was checking various parts. After hearing this, Shen Qin's face showed anticipation. Guan suddenly thought of the idea of the spring festival a few days ago. He heard everyone in Yaogu talking about their hometowns. He couldn't help but think of his home on earth in his previous life. It was the new year, so he set the spring festival as the first festival of Xuangu. We can arrange other festivals in the future to make life in Medicine Valley less boring. I just wonder if there are other Earth travelers in this world. Guan thought silently. He made up the spring festival because he heard it from the old man, just to be on guard. At this moment, Guan frowned slightly. He caught 2 auras that made him uncomfortable approaching Xian Valley, less than 10 miles away. The cultivation bases of the 2 people were both in the foundation building stage, but their auras were full of blood. They had killed many people. The World Outer Sect Conference is about to begin. Could it be that the demon cultivators came to visit? Guan prayed secretly, hoping that the other party would not enter their Medicine Valley. However, what he feared came true. The 2 flew straight to Xian Valley. After a while, their figures appeared on the top of the mountain, overlooking the Medicine Valley. This is a man and a woman, both wearing dark purple robes. They have evil temperaments and look like ghosts even in the daytime. The woman has a charming figure, dark makeup on her face, and nails as long as claws. She smiled with her hands covering her mouth. Su Lang, we are not far from the outer gate of Taicang Sect. Why don't you rest here for a while? By the way, ask the errant disciples here for information. The man standing next to her is burly, with a stern face, wearing a purple crown on his head, and a ruby inlaid on the purple crown, like a scarlet vertical eye. A group of Qi training reptiles, what can we learn from them? The purple-clothed man said coldly, he is from Wanyin Sect, named Su Ruye, and this time he came with his Taoist partner Chan Ji to participate in the World Outer Gate Conference. Chan Ji smiled and said, "You know the guys from Taicang Sect. They are not strong and like to bully the weak with their numbers. If we get there first, we will definitely get into trouble. It's better to wait here." Su Ruye thought it made sense, and then he flew down, followed by Chan Ji. Guan looked up and immediately sent a lifespan check. Su Ruye, 9th level of Foundation Building 67/389/920. Chan Ji, 7th level of Foundation Building 74/370/605. They all looked like geniuses. Guan stood up, and Jinchen couldn't help but follow his gaze. When she saw Su Ruye and Chan Ji, she was so scared that she quickly hid behind her master, Xiaochuan, Wuxin, and Tang Yu also noticed the arrival of the two demon cultivators. They immediately dropped what they were doing and ran towards Guan. Su Ruye and the other man landed in the park. They glanced at the herbs, which made Guan feel nervous. The public security of Taicang Sect is too bad. With such a grand event approaching, they didn't send disciples to patrol. Guan cursed inwardly. Of course, he also knew that the value of Xian Valley was just that to Taicang Sect. The herbs grown here were low-level herbs, which were specially used for the outer sect. Chan Ji turned her head and looked at Guan and others, and asked, "Who is the master of the valley here?" Guan stood up and bowed, "I am." "I wonder why the two seniors are here." Chan Ji threw a coquettish look at Guan and asked with a smile, "Brother, my husband and I are here to attend the World Conference of Taicang Sect. We want to rest in your valley for a few days. What do you think?" Su Ruye looked at Yilan and Jinchen behind Guan. His cold eyes made the two women uneasy. Yilan frowned and stood in front of Jinchen. Guan was unhappy, but he felt a familiar breath approaching. He asked, "May I ask which sect or school you two are from?" Chan Ji's eyes turned cold and she was about to speak. "Why are you talking nonsense to him? We want to stay. With his cultivation level of the 5th level of Qi training, can he still drive us away?" Su Ruye said impatiently. A terrible murderous aura burst out from his body, which moved everyone present, as if they were in a cold cellar. "Do the two people from Wanyin Sect want to be enemies with Taicang Sect?" A cold voice came from the sky, and everyone looked up, only to see Li Xuanyu standing on the flying sword, facing the wind, like a banished immortal. "Li Xuanyu." Chan Ji said word by word, gritting her teeth. Li Xuanyu said, "Come with me." After that, she turned and left, quickly disappearing behind the mountain. Su Ruye jumped up, and the gourd on his waist flew out, quickly grew larger, and landed at his feet. Chan Ji followed and jumped up, landing behind him, and the two left on the gourd. Everyone in Yaogu breathed a sigh of relief. "Are those two demon cultivators?" Su Han couldn't help asking, and his face turned pale with fear at Su Ruye's murderous aura. Wu Xian said, "Well, Wanyin Sect is a big sect of the devil, and it is very powerful." Xiao Chuan said unhappily, "Isn't our Taicang Sect a famous and upright sect? Why did we invite the devil's sect to come?" The disciples began to talk about this matter. They were all afraid. If Li Xuanyu hadn't appeared, they might have been in great trouble tonight. Guan turned his head to look at the horizon and frowned slightly. Afterwards, he asked everyone to continue preparing for the spring festival, and he went back to the house to rest for a while. Dusk fell, and the sky was red. Guan stood in front of the side window of the attic. He had already felt the sound of fighting in the distance, which was very weak. It was estimated to be 30 miles away from Xian Valley. He suddenly felt something, and immediately climbed over the windowsill and quickly disappeared into the mountains and forests. In the distant mountains and forests, the trees were tilted, and there were shocking cracks all over the ground. Su Ruye and Chan Ji stood side by side, both with contemptuous smiles on their faces. Opposite them stood not only Li Xuanyu, but also another person, who was Li Ye. "The Li family's 9 swords are indeed powerful, but your cultivation is not good enough." Su Ruye laughed coldly. His right hand moved, and a wisp of purple air surrounded his fingertips. Li Ye's mouth was full of blood, and his right hand holding the sword was shaking. Li Xuanyu next to him was the same, but his injury was not as serious as Li Ye's. "Thank you for the reward of 100 starting coins from Jichio Dizizi. Please give me monthly tickets and recommendation tickets." Chapter 28, Flying Leaves Kill the Enemy, Such a Domineering Sword Energy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cicada Ji ignored Liya and stared at Li Xuanyu. She smiled seductively and said, Li Xuanyu, aren't you a proud girl of heaven? Why are you in such a mess? It seems that you Li family siblings are no match for us. Su Ruye walked up to Liya. Li Xuanyu threw the sword in his hand violently, and the blades suddenly split into 4 sword shadows during the flight, and they all attacked Su Ruye. Su Ruye reacted very quickly. With a wave of his right hand, the purple energy in his hand exploded like a flame, and he forcibly stopped Li Xuanyu's sword. Cicada girl appeared behind Li Xuanyu like a ghost. A red fan appeared in her hand. She fanned out with all her strength, and billowing red poisonous mist rushed out, forcing Li Xuanyu to jump away. The red poisonous mist spread rapidly in the mountain forest, and there was a faint python scurrying quickly in the mist. Wherever it passed, the red mist rose and surrounded Liya and Li Xuanyu in a very short period of time. Li Xuanyu landed next to Liya and glanced around. Cicada girl could no longer be seen, while Su Ruye was suspended above the mountain forest, looking down at them. In the land of Taicang Sect, do you dare to have murderous intentions? Liya asked in a deep voice. The corner of Su Ruye's mouth raised, and he mocked, I have long heard that Taicang is vast. Since the current sect leader came to power, Taicang's control over the edge areas has been continuously weakened. It seems that he wants the disciples in the sect to conflicts are resolved at the edge. The 8 outer gate cities are like a wall. Inside the wall are the noble families, but outside the wall are the weak and the strong. It is no different from the devil. Up to now, no one has come. It seems that outside the outer sect, Taicang sect has not sent anyone to wait at all. Today, I will kill you and kidnap your sister. The worst is that I will not participate in the World Outer Sect Conference. You see how? The people in the Medicine Valley have also been killed. If Princess Li can come to protect her in person, she must have a lot of connections with you. Su Ruye seemed to think of something and licked her lips. Help me buy time. Li Xuanyu whispered, and she sat down cross-legged. She cast spells quickly with both hands, and a golden flame appeared between her eyebrows, looming. Liya's eyes condensed, and he suddenly squatted down, then jumped up with his long sword on top. He rose from the ground like a sword, and charged into the sky. The violent energy caused the mountains and forests within a few dozen feet to shake violently. Along with the billowing red mist, the sound is huge, and it is extremely spectacular at dusk. Su Ruye smiled contemptuously, and he quickly took out a large purple flag from the storage bag on his waist. A ferocious evil ghost was embroidered on the flag, as if it would rush out of the flag at any time. He turned the palm of his left hand and struck down, and his spiritual power exploded, forming a huge palm shadow and crushing it down, forcibly suppressing Liya's sword energy. Liya frowned. His spiritual power was far inferior to Su Ruye's and he couldn't compete at all. Under his gaze, the purple flag in Su Ruye's hand burst out into a purple whirlwind, which fascinated him. Not good. Liya's face changed drastically, and he felt a strong sense of dizziness. What frightened him the most was that his body could not fall. He wants to capture your soul. He is really bold. That the ancestor's voice sounded in Liya's mind. His tone was shocked and angry. After hearing this, Liya was even more panicked. Let me have a taste of the Taicang Emperor's soul. Su Ruye said with a ferocious smile, his eyes full of greed. Call out. A sharp sound of breaking through the air came from afar, causing Liya, who was standing in a stalemate in mid-air, to glance subconsciously. Even Li Xuanyu, who was meditating and doing exercises, couldn't help but raise his eyes. A leaf flew across the sky with a sharp sword energy, as fast as lightning, and headed straight towards Su Ruye. Su Ruye glanced subconsciously, but the leaf was so fast that he had no time to react. Bang! His head exploded directly, the blood mist drifted away, and the red mist covering the mountain forest was swept away by a strong wind. Liya was knocked over and fell to the ground. Li Xuanyu mobilized her spiritual power to resist the strong wind, but she was still pressed and forced to get up quickly. Su Lang, in the strong wind, Cicada Ji screamed. Just as she was about to jump up, another sound broke through the air. She turned her head and looked, and the terrible strong wind forced the red poisonous mist to sweep over her body. Her robe was forcefully pushed to the ground. Pull it off later to outline the perfect body curve. A leaf was reflected in her eyes. Boom. The leaf pierced her head, blood spurted out, and the blood was scattered in the forest. The leaf flew all the way, cutting off trees, raising billows of dust, and finally pierced the trunk of a big tree. Thump. Thump. Su Rui's body fell to the ground, followed by Cicada Ji's body. Immediately afterwards, only the sound of wind was left in the forest. Ruye propped up his body and sat on the ground, his black hair dancing wildly, and he was stunned. Li Xuanyu, who was not far away, was also frightened. Looking at the bodies of Su Ruye and the other two, she fell into a trance. Fei Yi kills enemies with such domineering sword energy. This person is at least at the Nascent Soul Realm, and he has extremely high attainments in swordsmanship. The ancestor's voice rang in Li Ye's mind. Li Ye woke up in shock, stood up quickly, clasped his fists and shouted, "I wonder which senior made the move." After hearing this, Li Xuanyu stood up and looked around. Unfortunately, no one responded to them. "Boy, go take a look over there." The ancestor's voice sounded again, urging Li Ye to go in a certain direction. Li Ye walked away immediately. He was trembling, his injuries and being possessed made him very uncomfortable. Li Xuanyu went to check the bodies of Su Ruye and Cicada Ji. She also stabbed 2 swords and crushed their hearts with sword energy. Li Ye walked a full 200 feet away. He stopped in front of a tree and his eyes fell on the trunk. He couldn't help but be moved. "How can it be?" Li Ye said tremblingly. Following his gaze, he saw a leaf stuck on the trunk of the tree. There was a trace of sword energy lingering on the leaf. The entire trunk had cracked, as if it would explode at any time. This person shot from 10 miles away. I can only capture the direction, but not his breath. The ancestor's voice was full of emotion, and he exclaimed, "It seems that Taicang Sect is not that bad. There are great monks watching outside." Li Ye looked at the leaf and tried to calm down. At this time, Li Xuanyu came from behind him. When she saw the leaf clearly, she was also stunned. As night falls, Xian Valley and the attic of the Valley Master are decorated with lights and decorations. Guan and his disciples sit around the big round table, pushing cups and changing cups, and the atmosphere is cheerful. Xiaochuan and Tang Yu were having a drinking fight. Xiaochuan, the uncle, was already blushing, but he refused to admit defeat and continued to drink despite the dissuasion of others. The wine they drank was not ordinary wine, it was spiritual wine that Guan specially bought from the outer sect. 1 jar was worth 2 low-grade spiritual stones, which was equivalent to 2 months' salary of a handyman disciple. I met 2 demon cultivators today. Will there be more demon cultivators coming later? Su Han suddenly asked. As soon as he said this, the atmosphere at the dinner table suddenly became cold. Everyone's smiles disappeared and everyone began to worry. Guan smiled comfortingly and said, "Don't worry, there are outer disciples patrolling. Didn't you see them today? Maybe after this incident, the intensity of patrols will be intensified." He was not worried because he was immersed in joy. By killing Su Ruye and Cicada Ji, he succeeded in taking away 112 years of life. He was summarizing the numerical rules of life loss. He could only judge that the year of life loss ranged from half to 20% of the target's remaining lifespan. The specific number was not fixed, and it felt like a random look at the face. Although the lifespan gained by killing the monks is higher, Guan does not expect to encounter this kind of thing again. If he kills too many enemies, he will run into trouble sooner or later. It is better to rely on herbs to accumulate life like he does now, which is at least safer. There are people outside the world, and there is a sky outside the world. Even though Guan can quickly become stronger by killing enemies, he will still have to die if he encounters an enemy far stronger than himself. He couldn't determine how high the strongest cultivation level in the world was, but he felt that as long as he survived for thousands of years, he should be invincible in the world. After hearing Guan's words, everyone felt that it made sense and the atmosphere became cheerful again. Guan didn't think about his own affairs all the time, and started chatting with his junior brothers and sisters. asking them about their next practice goals. The atmosphere continued to rise, and later even he started drinking. The first spring festival in Xuangu was completed successfully. Until late at night, everyone dispersed. Guan came to Baiying Cave. Jiang Qiong was meditating under the cane tree and doing her exercises. She was surrounded by demonic energy and looked terrifying. Guan came to her with food and said, "Master, today is the spring festival in Xian Valley. This is the food cooked by my junior sister. Do you want to try it? I wish you can recover your skills soon." Hearing this, Jiang Qiong opened her eyes and asked in confusion, "Spring festival? What festival is that?" Guan spoke out the words he had prepared. If anyone asked, his answer would be what an old man said. Well, setting a holiday is really good, it can unite people's hearts. Jiang Qiong nodded in approval, and then looked at the wooden basket box in Guan's hand. Guan immediately put down the wooden box with a basket and took out the dishes one by one, as well as a small jar of wine. When Jiang Qiong saw this, her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up, and she mused, "Since it is your wish, I have to eat it." She directly picked up a bowl of food, started to eat it in her mouth, and devoured it. Guan quickly poured wine for her and asked curiously, "Master, there is something I don't understand." "You said." Jiang Qiong said vaguely, then took the wine bowl and drank in one sip. His mouth was full of water stains. He didn't know whether it was oil or wine. Qianqiu Pavilion has arranged a detailed operation, why should it be outside the outer gate? I feel that Xuangu cannot detect any information. Guan asked. Jiang Qiong rolled her eyes at him and said angrily, "Who asked you to detect the information? Your role is to wait with peace of mind. When the Kangvine tree is fully grown, this will be the stronghold of Qianqiu Pavilion. Others will do the task of detecting the information." Hearing this, Guan became even more uneasy. What? Still want to be a stronghold? Guan frowned and asked, "Is Xuangu the only one that can be used as a stronghold?" Of course not. In addition to Xuangu, there are at least 5 masters of Yaogu who are the masters of Qianqiu Pavilion. It's just that they don't know each other's identities. As early as 100 years ago, there was a master of Qianqiu Pavilion who climbed to the position of true disciple. Now I'm afraid he has become an elder-level figure, Jiang Qiong replied casually. Guan was silent. Has Taicang Sect leaked into a sieve? Jiang Qiong put down the plate that he had already eaten, picked up a big chicken leg, and said with a smile, "It tastes pretty good. Although I have already gone away from grain, it is good to satisfy my appetite occasionally. As a reward, I will teach you Qianqiu later." The Secret of the Pavilion. Chapter 29 Magic Shadow Skill, Jiang Qiong's Appreciation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What secret technique? Guan asked expectantly. He had learned many spells from Jiang Qiong, but the more spells, the better. After Jiang Qiong left, it would be difficult for him to meet such a dedicated master again. Jiang Qiong took a bite of the big chicken leg and said with a proud smile, "One of the 9 secret arts of our Qianqiu Pavilion, the magic shadow skill, demonic shadow magic." Sound. Guan frowned and asked, "Is this a skill?" He has no shortage of skills. If he changes the skills and rebuilds them, he has to rebuild his spiritual power. He doesn't want to waste his life. As I said, it's a secret skill. The magic shadow function allows you to work better. You'll know later. Jiang Qiong said vaguely. His mouth was full of chicken and he could hardly hold it anymore. Guan's face twitched. "I don't want to be a demon spy." "Forget it, get rid of Jiang Qiong first. From now on, you can talk to people and ghosts, and walk around the world. Your identity is yours." At noon the next day, Guan was reading under a tree. 7 steps away, Yilan and Jindan were practicing their swordsmanship, with elegant postures. Unfortunately, they could not attract Guan's attention. Senior brother Liya is here." Xiaochuan ran over and said, there was a person following behind him. It was Liya. Guan immediately stood up, put Qingxia travel notes in his arms, and then walked towards Liya. "Say it upstairs." Liya said first. Guan nodded and took him upstairs. Jindan stopped swinging her sword, looked at Yilan, and asked nervously, "Uncle Yi, isn't Uncle Liya here for the 2 demon cultivators yesterday?" "Maybe." Yilan looked back and said softly, "Inside the house, Guan and Liya sat across from each other. While he poured tea for Liya, he asked, 'What's wrong?' Liya said, 'I plan to stay in Xian Valley for half a year, is that okay?' 'Of course it's okay. You can stay as long as you want. Has anything happened to you?' Guan responded without hesitation and asked with concern. Liya hesitated for a moment and decided to tell what happened yesterday. Junior brother Gu knew these things and might be able to practice hard due to the pressure. After hearing this, Guan's eyes widened and he said in shock, "Those 2 people are dead? Won't Wanyin Church cause trouble?" Liya hummed, "He attacked me and Li Xuanyu because the Taicang sect is causing trouble for the Wanyin sect. In addition to the Taicang sect, the court will also put pressure on the Wanyin sect. Li Xuanyu is my father's favorite daughter." Guan asked in surprise, "Then they still dare to take action against Senior Li? Su Ruye and Cicada Ji have done many evil things and acted unscrupulously. Cicada Ji and Li Xuanyu had a feud in Yeqing before, and finally found Li Xuanyu alone. Naturally, they refused to give up, and..." Liya said disdainfully. "In the end, he still held back. And what? Nothing." Guan wanted to hit someone when he heard that, so he just didn't even say the word "and." Liya looked at Guan and asked, "Have you seen anyone else passing by Medicine Valley since yesterday?" Guan shook his head. "Have you not seen that if the old man from the Nascent Soul Realm hadn't taken action yesterday, Li Xuanyu and I would have been in trouble? The old man's swordsmanship was really terrifying. He could kill enemies by picking leaves, and his cultivation at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm was beyond him. There are flowers, vegetables, and melons in front of you, and you can kill them all with just 1 leaf." Liya suddenly became excited when he talked about yesterday's battle, and he began to describe the situation at that time. Guan's eyes widened and he took a breath from time to time, as if he was listening to a book from heaven. The Nascent Soul Realm Senior just threw 2 leaves, but Liya used all the vocabulary he knew in his life to describe it, and he was very excited. Sword repair should be like this. No sword is better than a sword. No matter what you hold in your hand, it is a sword, even me. In short, senior brother, I have found a direction. From now on, I will concentrate on practicing swords and studying the way of swordsmanship." Liya showed a look of longing. Guan nodded, feeling secretly happy. "Brother, the senior you boasted about so much is right in front of you, but unfortunately, you are shallow and can't see through it." Guan interrupted Liya's thoughts and asked, "The World Outer Sect Conference is so grand, why doesn't the sect send disciples to patrol, or send people to protect us handyman disciples?" Around Xian Valley, within a radius of 50 miles, there are at least 6 caves for outer sect disciples. Although most of them are not in the caves, as long as the sect gives the order, someone will definitely come. Liya's smile disappeared, and he said quietly, "Think about why some people in the sect dare to raise greedy, angry monsters outside the outer sect. Isn't it because the sect doesn't take the handyman disciples seriously? But don't worry, I will stay until the end of the World Outer Sect Conference." Guan was silent for a moment, then asked, "Aren't you going to participate? My cultivation level is not enough. If I participate rashly, I will only get injured. Such a grand gathering must be the only one in the world at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm." Liya shook his head. These words made Guan look at him with admiration. He was quite self-aware. Of course, it could also be that Su Ruye had given him too much of a blow. The 2 chatted for a while and then went downstairs. Guan asked Xiaochuan and Tang Yu to help clear up a yard for Liya to live alone. Everyone in the valley was very happy when they learned that Liya would stay for half a year. On the one hand, they had someone to protect them, and on the other hand, they could practice swordsmanship with Liya. In their eyes, Guan was good at everything, but he had too few spells and couldn't guide them. Liya was different. He was a genuine Foundation Establishment monk. In the days that followed, monks often flew over the Xian Valley with their swords. Guan also saw many flying magic weapons and monster mounts, which made him sigh inwardly. this is the world of cultivating immortals. 1 month later, late at night, Jiang Qiong leaned against the vine tree, her right leg dangling, her white and tender calf exposed under her skirt, shining brightly. She held a book in her hand, and her eyes glanced at Guan in the distance, who was picking herbs. She suddenly turned over, and the book in her hand flew into the pendant on her neck. She stretched her body. "My dear disciple, don't be busy, practice the magic shadow skill first." Jiang Qiong called out. She jumped and landed in front of the alchemy furnace, where the elixir was being brewed, and bursts of white smoke came out of the furnace cover. Guan said without looking back, "It's okay, I'll finish it soon." Jiang Qiong shook his head and laughed, thinking, "This kid is really diligent, precious, I have to make some elixir for him." Half an incense stick of time later, Guan came to Jiang Qiong with the picked herbs. He placed the herbs on the ground according to category, which was very meticulous, making Jiang Qiong even more satisfied. This child is really impeccable. Guan harvested more than 1,300 years of life in one breath, and he was in a good mood. Such a harvest opportunity is not easy to wait. Continue to practice, and ask me any time if you don't understand. Jiang Qiong stared at the alchemy furnace and said softly. Guan nodded, and then began to practice the magic shadow magic. He had practiced this skill for a month, but it still did not enter his attribute panel, which made him very annoyed. He must practice it now. Buying cave heaven fell into silence. Guan and Jiang Qiong sat in meditation near the alchemy furnace, and the alchemy smoke blurred their figures. 4 days later, the magic shadow magic finally appeared on Guan's attribute panel. He looked at his attribute panel with a satisfied smile on his face. Name, Guan. Lifespan, 27/12268. Spiritual roots, first class 5-element spiritual roots. Wood and earth attributes are more prominent. Cultivation, 8th level of Nascent Soul Realm. Kung Fu, fire control technique, not yet. Mastered, Divine Wood Pure Yang technique, mastered, Dragon Power Divine Yuan technique, mastered, Alchemy, beginning to learn, 10,000 Gu Mysterious technique, not yet mastered, Yin-Yang technique, not yet mastered. Unique skills, Wind and Shadow Leg, mastered, Taicang Shocking God Sword, mastered, 8 Direction Step, not yet mastered, Magic Shadow Divine technique, not yet mastered. Magic Spells, Soul Capture technique, not yet mastered, Sword Control technique, mastered. Soul Bewitching Eye, not yet mastered, Poisonwood Formation, beginning to learn, Wind Control technique, not yet mastered, Corpse Control technique, not yet mastered. Being able to appear on the attribute panel means that everything is true. Jiang Qiong taught him 8 kinds of skills and spells in more than 5 years, very competent. This also changed Guan's opinion of her. Although she was a demon cultivator, her teaching attitude was better than the righteous way. Guan stood up, bowed to Jiang Qiong, and said, "Master, let's stop here tonight. I want to go back and rest." Jiang Qiong was still sitting in front of the alchemy furnace, with demonic energy lingering around her. She didn't even open her eyes and said, "Practice well after you go back. I will leave in 2 years at most." Guan turned away without saying a word. Jiang Qiong opened one eye and glanced at his back, thinking, "This kid seems a little sad. Yes, where can I find such a good master? Seeing that he is lonely, I will find someone to replace him when I go back. Let him follow me to practice in Qianqiu Pavilion, and then let my father find that person to teach him the way of swordsmanship." Guan turned his back to her and walked quickly towards the cave entrance. He suppressed the joy in his heart and didn't let himself laugh. Finally, he was leaving. Although Jiang Qiong was very good to him, he wanted to enjoy the 8 scenery cave heaven alone. After returning to the forest, Guan did not return to the building immediately. He rushed to the distance, preparing to find a place to invest 1 year of life in his cultivation. He felt that he was close to the 9th level of the Nascent Soul Realm. Perhaps in these few days, even if he felt close, he was very restrained and only invested 1 year of life every day. All the way to 20 miles away, Guan sat under a tree, and he suppressed his breath to the lowest, almost the same as flowers and plants. He immediately invested 1 year of life in his cultivation, and then, spiritual energy surged towards him. the surrounding flowers and plants swayed with it, as if waving flags and cheering for him, wishing him a breakthrough as soon as possible. Soon, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth returned to calm, indicating that he had completed a year of qi intake practice. Guan stood up and prepared to leave. Just as he was about to take a step, he suddenly noticed something and immediately hid behind the tree. About 4 breaths later, 2 sounds of breaking through the air came, and they passed over the sky above Guan's head. Guan's eyesight was unmatched by ordinary people. He caught the figures of the 2 people and quickly sent 2 lifespans to investigate. Swa Yijian, 9th level of Jindan realm 142/490/980. Swa Lin, 2nd level of Foundation Establishment realm 27/280/1400. 0.9 th level of Jindan realm. Guan was secretly curious, wondering which sect or school these 2 people came from. After they left, Guan quietly returned to Xian Valley. The next morning, he took his disciples to practice as usual, and Liya greeted him and said he was going to the outer gate. It was not until noon that Liya returned on his sword, and brought back someone. It was Swa Lin that Guan had investigated last night. Today, 2 chapters are released together, so that everyone does not have to wait today. A new week has arrived. Please vote for the monthly ticket and the recommendation ticket. Click 1 page down to help increase the number of new books. Chapter 30, Nascent Soul Realm 9th level, Wood Spirit Sword Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Junior Brother Gu, let me introduce you to my childhood friend, Swa Lin. He wants to discuss swordsmanship with me. Let him live in my courtyard. Liya came to Guan and introduced him. Swa Lin was dressed in yellow, with a handsome face and a proud look between his eyebrows. He wore a sword on his waist, and it was not low-grade at first glance. Liya introduced Guan to Swa Lin, but he just nodded slightly to Guan and did not say anything. Guan was not surprised. He smiled and said, "Then Senior Brother Li, you can take him to live." Liya nodded, his eyes revealed an apology. Swa Lin pulled Liya forward, and he said excitedly, "Ji Lin of the Ji family is really amazing today. Have you seen his swordsmanship? It is extremely exquisite. I feel that he has the hope of becoming the final winner." Ji Lin. A handsome and proud face appeared in Guan's mind. Ji Lin, like him, followed Ji Xiaoyu to join the Taicang sect. The 2 did not interact much, but Ji had come to help Ji Lin collect herbs before. Unexpectedly, Ji Lin could already stand out in the World Outer Sect conference. You know, Ji Lin is only a few years older than him. Of course, it may be related to the cultivation resources he got. The treatment of Taicang sect plus the resources of the Ji family, it is understandable that his cultivation is advancing by leaps and bounds. Guan walked towards the tree, but his ears were eavesdropping on the conversation of Liya and the others. The World Outer Sect conference has begun. The Outer Sect genius disciples of both the righteous and the evil have gathered together to compete for the top. According to Liya and the others, the conference is held in a one-on-one format, and those undefeated disciples are beginning to become famous. Guan did not hear Ji Xiaoyu's name, and then he thought, yes, Ji Xiaoyu does not belong to the Outer Sect. Xiao Chuan, Wu Xin and others are very curious about Swa Lin. They gather in 2s and 3s and talk about it. Swa Lin's arrival did not disrupt the life of Xuangu. He was quite disdainful of the menial disciples. He usually practiced sword with Liya and returned to the house to practice after practice. Because of their arrival, Guan reduced the frequency of going to Baiying Cave Heaven, but he still insisted on the daily plan. A month passed quickly. Guan finally reached the 9th level of the Nascent Soul Realm. That night, he was light on the way back. When he returned to Xuangu, he found someone practicing sword in Liya's courtyard. He returned to his attic and walked to the window to stop and watch after entering the house. It was Swa Lin who practiced sword. When Swa Lin first came, Guan thought he was a sword genius, but after a month, watching him practice sword every day, Guan just found out that this guy's sword talent was extremely mediocre. Guan now has a certain level of sword attainments. He can judge that Swa Lin's sword talent is not as good as Su Han. Su Han is the most talented swordsman in the valley, but that is only in Xuangu, and it is not good enough to show it outside. Guan watched for a while and then closed the window. When it was daybreak, Guan went downstairs and found Swa Lin still standing in the yard. He stood there, looking at the sword in his hand. frowning, Guan called on his junior brothers, junior sisters, and disciples to practice, and the movement attracted Zhuo Lin's attention. In fact, you don't have to force the sword. Your spiritual root aptitude is so powerful. When you practice sword at a higher level, you may be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Liye came to Zhuo Lin and said softly. Zhuo Lin's face was gloomy, and he said, "No, I must become a sword cultivator. My father is a sword fanatic in Sanghu." Liye wanted to persuade him, but then he thought that he was the same and wanted to prove it to his father. Zhuo Lin stared at Guan and others practicing. For some reason, he felt that Guan's movements were different. They were obviously the same as others, but Guan's movements were full of mystery. At first, he thought it was his illusion, but as he watched, he felt more and more that he was not wrong. Liye did not continue to disturb Zhuo Lin. He turned and walked towards the forest. He also needed a lot of time to practice, although he did not often mention the defeat to Su Ruye, he was always thinking about it, he did not want to lose again. After Guan finished a set of exercises, he asked the disciples in the valley to be busy. At this point, the affairs of the valley no longer needed him to arrange personally. Wu Xian was gradually taking over the power of the eldest brother. Xiaochuan was a dull person and did not like to command and arrange, so he was willing to help Wu Xian. Yilan was not to be mentioned. She had already restrained her thoughts and focused on the outer sect assessment. There was only one way for people like them with mediocre qualifications to become outer sect disciples, that is, to reach the 9th level of Qi training realm, and then participate in the outer sect assessment. After passing, they can wait for the outer sect to issue foundation building pills. If they broke through to the foundation building realm directly, there would be no need for assessment. Guan was hesitating whether to improve his alchemy skills and help his junior sisters and junior brothers refine foundation building pills. The medicinal materials for foundation building pills can all be found in the valley. The only difficulty is the process of alchemy. Yilan still has some time to reach the 9th level of Qi training, which is enough for Guan to weigh the matter. As for Xiaochuan, that is even further away. Most people cannot reach the 8th level of Qi training even if they practice hard for a lifetime. Guan walked towards the attic. He took out the travels of the Green Hero from his arms, and his face showed anticipation. He deliberately kept the last 5 chapters, waiting for a sunny day to savor them. It was raining heavily, and the Green Hero met his Miss Yin in a ruined temple. The grievances between the two were about to erupt completely. Guan was looking forward to it just thinking about it. "Brother Guan." Zhuo Lin's voice came. Guan turned his head and saw him walking quickly. When he came to Guan, Zhuo Lin was a little embarrassed, and Guan did not care about his arrogance at the beginning, and asked with a smile, "Brother Zhuo, is there anything?" He gritted his teeth and said, "I saw that your set of moves is very exquisite. Can you teach me?" "No problem, let's go under the tree." Guan replied, "It is our duty to promote radio gymnastics." Zhuo Lin was stunned. He didn't expect him to be so easy to talk to. He was immediately filled with shame. He hurriedly followed Guan's pace. The two came to the courtyard in front of the attic. Guan didn't waste words and began to teach him to practice. Zhuo Lin has a photographic memory. Guan taught him once and he would know it. "That's it?" Zhuo Lin frowned and asked. Guan asked in confusion, "Not enough. This is all the moves. What about the mind method?" "No mind method." "Impossible, without the mind method, how can you?" Zhuo Lin frowned and said. His words made Guan even more confused, and he couldn't help asking, "What's wrong with me?" Zhuo Lin was anxious and said, "You just give me a different feeling. It's obviously the same action, but it's different from others. You must have a mental method." Guan was helpless. Did this kid become stupid because of swordsmanship? Seeing Guan's expression, Zhuo Lin was even more embarrassed. Reason told him that a Chore's disciple couldn't hide a peerless mental method. But his previous feeling was not wrong. From childhood to adulthood, he was the most sensitive to a person's qualifications and breadth. Even his master praised him for having a delicate and spiritual heart and being good at identifying people. The Chore's disciple in front of him must be extraordinary. Zhuo Lin rolled his eyes and said, "How about this? I will teach you swordsmanship, you try it." Guan wanted to refuse, but looking at his appearance, he was afraid that it would be difficult to get rid of it, so he could only nod his head, it's a waste not to learn. Seeing that he didn't have a sword, Zhuo Lin took out a long sword from the storage bag and handed it to him. He drew the sword at his waist and began to show his swordsmanship. This kid really doesn't know how to behave. Why swing the sword so fast? Guan complained in his heart, but his eyes were watching very seriously. In the distance, Tang Yu and Su Han saw this scene. They didn't dare to get close and could only watch from a distance. If the master has learned it, can he teach us? Su Han said expectantly. He likes swords the most. There are so many ways to cultivate immortals, but only sword cultivation makes him fascinated. Tang Yu nodded and said, as long as the master learns it, we will ask him, and he will never refuse. In their hearts, Guan is the best master. The key to the problem lies in whether the master can learn Zhuo Lin's swordsmanship. The answer is yes. Guan has invested 2,000 years of his life in the 7 swords of the Li family. His swordsmanship is already very high. Although the swordsmanship displayed by Zhuo Lin is good in his opinion, it is not as good as the upgraded version of the 7 swords of the 7 swords of the Li family, not to mention the 9 swords of shock. That's right, Zhuo Lin can't teach his strongest swordsmanship right away. After Zhuo Lin finished, he looked back at Guan and asked, how much did you remember? Guan shook his head and said, about 20%. I can't tell. Your swordsmanship is so smooth that it dazzles me. I have forgotten the previous sword moves. Zhuo Lin frowned, and he immediately asked Guan to try, so, Guan began to perform Zhuo Lin's swordsmanship just now. His movements were hesitant and his sword moves were stiff, which made Zhuo Lin frown more and more. Tang Yu and Su Han in the distance were desperate. It seemed that the master could not learn it. After Guan finished performing with bumps, Zhuo Lin did not give up and performed it again. This time, the movements were slower, but he still did not remember all of it. After half an hour of tossing, Guan found an excuse to slip away. Angry Zhuo Lin found Ruye and said that Guan was teasing him. After learning the reason, Ruye said with a smile, he really has no talent for swordsmanship, and he hates practicing swordsmanship. Really? Zhuo Lin's anger subsided a lot, but he couldn't help but think of Guan's previous training posture. He always felt that Guan was hiding something. He is my junior brother, how could I not know? Ruye rolled his eyes at him, and then warned, don't bother him anymore. It's good enough that you stay. If you bother him again, go back to the outer gate to find your father. Zhuo Lin fell into deep thought, and his eyes couldn't help but look at the attic where Guan lived, wondering what he was thinking. On the other side, in the attic, Guan was sitting on the bed, with his eyes closed. Recalling the swordsmanship taught by Zhuo Lin, he slowly opened his eyes, and a sword light flashed in his eyes. He called up his attribute panel, and the wood spirit swordsmanship appeared in the column of unique skills. Wood spirit. Could it be a swordsmanship with wood attributes? Guan's divine wood pure yang skill is of wood attribute. If he practices wood attribute magic, he can achieve twice the result with half the effort. He practiced the poisonous wood array taught by Jiang Qiong before and learned it quickly. However, he doesn't want to improve this swordsmanship for the time being. He has to save his lifespan for 100,000 years first. 1,000 years can open the lifespan detection function, and 10,000 years can open the lifespan barrier function. 100,000 years of lifespan should also be able to open new functions. He has been looking forward to it.